Welcome to Tao Living, the Art of Living podcast with your host, Lou Corletto, where you will be supported to remember that you are the driver and not the vehicle, so that you can walk your life in trust.
Welcome to the Tao Living podcast, the Art of Living. Today's episode is all about attachments. The Buddha said, the root of suffering is attachment. I'm going to share with you a clip right now where in certain parts of the world they used to capture monkeys, at least in a humane way, with a simple trick of having a device, be it a hole in the side of an anthill, like a termite mound, a jar, coconuts, all kinds of things. What they would do is they'd create an opening where the monkey could put the hand in, and inside would be some kind of a bait that the monkey liked. And that could be fruits, nuts, whatever it was they were after, right? So the monkey would put their hand in, grab a hold of this object, and then the hunter would simply just walk up to them, and the monkey would start freaking out, trying to get their hand out, and they couldn't get out. And they would go bonkers. And then the hunter would just put a bag over the monkey and catch him. And all that monkey had to do is let go of the fruit or the nut and pull their hand out and run away. But they didn't, because they held on, because they were attached to what they were after, right? So here's the clip. Yeah, now that you've seen that, right? How many times have you in your life done something similar, but obviously not in your hand in the cookie jar? Oh my goodness. Decades ago, I used to create so much trauma in my life because of attachments to the way things should be, the outcome that I wanted, right? Including things like, oh, the weather didn't turn out the way I wanted it. People didn't show up on time for the party and ruined the surprise, and I went into depression, right? Just all this trauma because I was attached to a person, place, or thing. Yeah, so we're going to unpack that in this episode. And so back to the Buddha quote that the root of all suffering is attachment. Well, that's not just some esoteric spiritual concept. It's really based on just truth. Because the universal law is change is the only constant. Everything changes, right? And in this reality, everything ends, including you and I, your loved ones, this land that I'm standing on, these trees will go away, these plants will go away, new ones come, right? But everything changes until we attempt to not let it change. And again, that's people, places, constructs, ideas, ideals. And so loss is a part of life. It only becomes traumatic when we hold on, when it's time to let go. And you've heard it, right? Pain is inevitable. That's part of life. But suffering is an option. So let's learn how not to do that, right? How can we do that differently? And so today I was gifted with a really beautiful experience on so many levels. One, my partner and I committed to mow the property today. We live in a large chunk of land in the forest, but we have some open fields, and they need to be mowed. And today was the day we allocated for that. So we began, we got the mowers out and the weed whackers, and we started our process. And in one of the fields, we came across a beautiful, brand new little baby doe. This little deer couldn't have been a week old. Huddled up, curdled, pretending that nobody could see her because that's her protective mechanism. So much so we weren't even sure if she was still alive. She was that small and that still. And So we were enamored with the moment, and then we realized, oops, mom's keeping an eye on her from somewhere in the forest, right, in the woods. So we backed away, and we just hung out for a bit. And then lo and behold, mom came out of the woods, came and checked on the baby, crossed over the creek, and it was just a beautiful thing to witness. And then it was back to, but we have to mow. This is the day. And we still have a lot of mowing, like acres to mow and weed whack and trim for an event we have coming up. That was my attachment. And life said, yeah, but there's something more important right now. Let this mother take care of her baby now and get this baby to safety. So go away, and if you can mow and trim later, great. If you can't, pick another day, right? Now, in the past, my outcome would have just stuck with the process. So thank goodness I've grown up enough to and paid attention. So I shared that from the place of, like, where in your life are you connected, right? Where are you holding on to stuff? I remember hearing this story about this back when Coca-Cola, Coke, created their new formula, right? So the new Coke. And Coke enthusiasts were up in arms, right? No way, do not change the formula. And one gentleman in particular created a class action lawsuit and had thousands of people signed up in petition to go after Coke to make sure they would keep the original formula. Now, Coke had done its research, right? For 4 years they were testing this. And the majority of the people were choosing the new formula, so that's why they went with it. They did feasibility studies. The funny part was, the guy who was leading this class action lawsuit, in a blind taste test, he chose the new Coke formula. But he was attached to the idea of his Coke, right? And so let's unpack some common ways that we as people can get hung up in attachments that then lead to suffering. How about lifestyle? Society says that we should look a certain way or have material goods, right? If you're not wearing these outfits, you're not cool, you're not hip. If you don't drive this car, you're not successful, right? So like an attachment to the definition of success. Whose definition? Is it yours? And is it authentic for you? Or is it someone else's that's been laid upon you that you're trying to live into and maybe never achieve? That's madness. Or you've heard that before, you climb the ladder of success and you find out it's on the wrong wall, right? So lifestyle attachments. How about people? And this comes for all of us. Our loved ones, right? Eventually, someone in your life is going to make their transition. Meaning they're going to die, they're going to move on. And that's part of life. Yet holding on causes suffering for us and them, because oftentimes I've served many people in their transitions. And oftentimes they're staying because of the pain of the people who aren't ready to let go of them. These folks are ready to move on, but they actually stay in their body because the people around them aren't ready for the transition. And so, yeah, like, how about attachment to idea of like the perfect partner, right? The soulmate. This is what they look like, and I bring somebody in my life, but they're not adhering to my construct. And therefore, I'm always picking and blah, 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 trying to change them to get them to match what I want versus seeing who they are and appreciating them for who they be. Right? And so belief systems, this is a biggie. Attachments to our belief systems. Now, I just recently shot 2 brand new courses that'll be coming out soon. So side note, keep an eye on that. Conscious languaging, 1.0, the fundamentals, and 2.0, the awakening process. In both of them, especially the 2.0, I unpack belief systems and perception and actuality and reality, yada, yada, yada. So here's the biggie about belief systems. 1, in the providence of the mind, whatever you believe is either true or on its way of becoming true, even if it's not actual. And another huge piece about belief systems is most of ours were downloaded into us when we were born, right? So you show up on the planet, you were born into a family, you're given a name and a language to speak, a culture, a faith. This is the building you go to and pray if you have a faith or you don't have a faith. I'm not saying any of these are right or wrong. I'm just saying they were downloaded. How you treat people, how you see people, these people are good people, these people are not good people, right? All of it. So it's affected by your culture, your background, and the people before you that you grew up with, right? So they download their constructs onto you and I. Again, I'm not saying any of those are wrong. What I'm saying is most of us never go back and go through the database to say, are these true for me? Like I'm running them, but are they true? So when I did my personal inventory, there was a bunch that were, so I got to keep them. They're great. And there was a bunch that weren't. So it was my job to rewrite the script because that no longer fit who I am. Have you done that, right? If not, I invite you to. And I have some support in a second to guide you through that process. Yep. How about the material world, right? Attachment to our stuff. People are so attached to stuff that there's a huge business in storage units. We literally spend money every month to store our stuff that doesn't get used, stuff we're holding on to, attachments, holding on, where it could serve someone else. You could sell it, make money. You could donate it and set yourself free and open room for new, yeah? And then the big one, which is attachment to people from the place of a deep relationship that oftentimes leads to staying in an unhealthy relationship that turns toxic. I've been in them, and I've served thousands of people as clients who were in them. And they have many ramifications, right? So the relationship starts, and over time, it's now conflict, and it's not healthy. And there's always ways to heal the relationship, right? Sometimes we can heal and stay, and sometimes healing is moving apart. It's a time when it's time to move apart, and we don't. That's when it becomes toxic. And oftentimes, the mindset, right? So if you happen to be in one or were in one, right? I might go through the process of, this is so not healthy, but internal. If it ends, then I've lost another relationship. I've failed again. I was committed to this relationship so I'm going to stay with it and make it work, even though it's not working. The attachment to the other person, because you're holding space for them to change, right? And they're not. Either way, if we're staying in a toxic relationship, it causes suffering because we lose our well-being, we lose our sense of self, we start showing up differently or shutting down, right? There's all kinds of things that happen there. And the big part is it stops us from moving on to allow yumminess, right? A new healthy relationship to be vital and dynamic and healthy and experience all of you hoped for in this one that's not occurring. So take a moment and just notice any of what I've shared so far. Has anything popped? Like, oh yeah, right? Either in the past or currently. And then, well, how can you show up differently to dance that dance, right? So attachment to people, places, things, old ideas, belief systems, constructs. Remember the illusion of constant, like I'm trying to maintain something. It's an illusion because everything changes. You've heard the adage, you can't step in the same river twice. Well, it's not just an adage, it's true. You can step in the same physical location, but you can't step in the same river because the water is always moving. And so is life. And so are you. Because you're constantly, even if you attempt not to, changing. Your cells are breaking down and dying and rebuilding, right? Your spirit is growing. All kinds of things are happening. It's the resistance to that process because of our attachments, holding on to what should be, could be, want to be, right? And is it time to let go? Pain is inevitable. Suffering is an option. If you'd like to take and unpack this deeper, I invite you to join me in my 3-day event called Life by Design. It'll be August 25 to 27. Click the link below, you can tap into more details. Not only will we give you tools to learn to let go and stop the trauma, but we'll definitely unpack beliefs, and especially limiting beliefs. We'll dive into the core 8 domains of your life, these critical domains: your career, your finances, your health, how you interact with your community. Do you give back? How do you receive from your community? What do you do to recreate yourself? What is your personal empowerment section like, right? Your education, not academia. So we do a deep dive in these 8 domains, and love to have you. And then you get to clean up the old thought patterns around these core places, clean up the limiting beliefs, reestablish new truths for where you are now to move you forward from this point forward to create the life by your design. Because remember, if you're not designing your life, something or someone else is. Thanks for tuning in to the Tao Living Podcast. Until next time, abundant blessings. Ciao.
To connect further and dive deeper, you can always reach me at my website, loucorleto.com, LOUCORLETO, or in the social channels, Facebook, loucorleto.official, Instagram, Lou_Corleto, Twitter, Lou_Corleto, and LinkedIn. Until next time, remember who you be. Abundant blessings.